It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in to 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 1069thefan.com and the 1069 The Fan mobile app. It's the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, shortened edition this hour as Utah Jazz are in Toronto to take on the Raptors. So we got to be out by 5:19. Jason, that's the time because Jazz pregame starts at 5:20.
Yeah, taking on the Toronto Raptors in an epic tank-off. The Jazz are sitting about 8 or 9 different people. Most of their roster, just any player you can remember their name, they're probably sitting.
Yes, it's a glorified G League team, rookies and sophomores.
Basically, heck, some of the rookies and sophomores are sitting.
Yeah, and some guys on two-way contracts are going to start. So that's coming up a little bit later on this evening. Before we get into our all-Region 11 teams for boys and girls basketball, news today from Utah State football. Spring practices begin next week, but all practices close to the public and no spring game. Coach Bronco Mendenhall hinted that might be the case when we visited with him in early February, and it was all confirmed today when they released it this morning. That they would not do any kind of a spring scrimmage, family fun events or anything like that. They just have to push that into August when they conclude fall camp.
And in spring practices being closed isn't abnormal. There have been years where there have been closed practices. Last year they were open, but in years past they've been closed. But the lack of a spring game is certainly a big deal. They used to have like 2 of them. They'd have the family appreciation day, or I forget exactly how they branded that, but it was obviously a big deal for the public getting a chance to see the team, and they're not going to have that, but potentially for the better. We'll have a chance to talk to Bronco Mendenhall. We're scheduling an interview to have him on our show next week, so we'll get a chance to talk to him about that, among other topics for this time of year.
Yeah, so excited for that. Looking forward to hearing from the coach and be able to ask him some questions ahead of their start to spring practices.
Speaking of canceled, there were a couple of softball games that got canceled today because of weather. They were supposed to play St. Joseph's in a doubleheader, and they didn't play those games. They're canceled, may get rescheduled, or maybe not. They're down in Arizona right now. They may not have a great chance to reschedule these games.
Tricky. It's that time of year. You never know.
Arizona's supposed to be when you don't have to deal with weather. Yeah,
you should be okay in a place like that, but even then, you never really know. Not a lot of time on this hour here with you, but if you do want to chime in, we do love to hear from you on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321 if you want to chime in. But Jason, let's get into high school hoops. It's been a tradition, something that we've done for some time. We have a lot of different people that are out calling basketball games, boys and girls basketball for Region 11. This year was no different. Got to, we covered a lot of games all over the place. And once the season is done, I ask everybody to submit a list. Who would be on your first team? Who would be on your second team? Who would you consider to be the coach of the year, player of the year, things like that? And then we tally it all together. And now we're going to reveal what those numbers look like and let you know who's on that list. So let's start off with the boys. So Region 11 boys. And let's go to the superlatives first, the individual honors, before we get to the teams. Player of the year, there were 2 votes that were easy. Everybody voted the same way.
Yeah.
And that was for the player of the year, for the boys and for the girls. Runaway, unanimous selection, Jude Haig from the Green Canyon Wolves. Outstanding season for Jude. leading the Wolves to the championship game. But unfortunately, we had a great first half, but unfortunately cooled off a little. And Dixie was able to do what they needed to do, and Green Canyon, excuse me, not Dixie, it was Payson. But Green Canyon not able to win the championship, but finishing as the runners-up. Yeah,
I don't feel like there was really any other choice, other than Jude Haig. This is a guy who put up like multiple 40-point games, or I think he even got to 50 in one game, or 49. The only other player I feel like who ever really reached into the dominant heights that Jude Haig was reaching would probably be Reed Olson, where he had some really dominant stretches with some of the double-doubles he was putting up on the regular. But Jude Haig was just in a realm of his own on an individual level, and obviously had a massive impact on Green Canyon's run. Like, he basically, Green Canyon was already going to be a good team. He took them from what was going to be a good team to a championship level team by moving in this year and having this absolutely fantastic season that he's had. So very well deserved there.
And then as far as the let's continue to go with the players themselves. The boys' defensive player of the year. This one went to Dawson Lowe, and he was just a thief on the court. Difficult for opponents to get by him. He had so many steals. He averaged nearly 3 steals per game, 2.76 steals per game, and just a great on-ball defender for Ridgeline, and recognized as the defensive player of the year as a guard.
Yeah, and Dawson, I'm going to be honest here. Like, this guy might be the most underrated player in the entire region. And if there was an all-around player award, it should go to Dawson Lowe. The guy who is an absolute baller on offense, not necessarily like a scorer, but got rebounds, got assists, got steals, point of attack defender, engine of the offense. Again, not necessarily in putting up like 20 points a game, the way like Jude Haig or sometimes Reed Olson or Kaser Thurgood were sometimes doing for their teams. But Dawson Lowe, a fantastic player and deservedly recognized for his defense.
Sixth man of the year went to Jamison Thompson, another member of that Green Canyon team. Just a support player to help the Wolves out, and played some significant roles in some number of games for Green Canyon.
It's a luxury when you can have a guy as good as Thompson coming off your bench in most games. And
yes,
it really reflected how good, like, Green Canyon and Ridgeline had fantastic benches, and again, Thompson very well deserved here.
The tightest race probably anywhere was the coach of the year. Ultimately, it was Logan Brown who received the recognition, and he is recognized as the coach of the year, with the Wolves having an outstanding season, only one loss in the regular season, and then they lost in that championship game. But a lot of it, some might say, well, look at Jude Haig. It's easy to win when you got a player like that. But it was a full team effort. There were a lot of guys that chipped in and played very good basketball. And so recognizing Logan Brown as the coach of the year out of Region 11.
Yeah, and well-deserved. To be perfectly honest, I didn't vote for Logan Brown. I voted for Ridgeline's head coach for kind of the logic you outlined. Logan got handed a superstar at the high school level, and so they were the easy favorite, and they won. But I thought Ridgeline, for what they had to overcome and what the guys they lost, keeping that team together and being as dominant as they were without like this big star player. You do have a guy like Dawson Lowe, but it was just a group of like 7 or 8 really good basketball players. And to me, that reflected coaching, but like, that doesn't take away from Logan Brown, because he had almost the exact same thing on Green Canyon. Sure, he had the star, but he did a lot of what was done at Ridgeline as well. I leaned one way instead of the other. That's, you mentioned it's a close race. It was a close consideration.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to take anything away from Logan Brown, but we had some excellent coaching. And of course, I mean, heck, you look at what Kirk Hilliard did at Skyview, where he's had a lot to overcome the last 2 years with injuries and attrition. And Skyview teams are always disciplined on defense and offense. So spoiled for coaching here in Region 11.
Absolutely. So the Region 11 boys first team, that includes Jude Haig from Green Canyon. It includes Dawson Lowe from Ridgeline. But it also includes Gavin Crane from Green Canyon, Reed Olson from Logan, and Kaser Thurgood from Bear River.
Yeah, Kaser, I don't think I actually ended up calling any of the Logan and Bear River games, so I didn't get a chance to Kaser much in person. But just from what I've known of his game, he's been a baller all year. Bear River had a bit of a tough year, but still played very good. Gavin Crane, another underrated guy. Like, he's good. He was a huge engine in Green Canyon being a great team. Then Reed Olson, I mean, I got to see him a ton, so I'm a little biased there. Did. But man,
and he sure filled up a stat sheet.
Yeah, he was the best center, and like I said, probably second best player in the entire region. Unfortunately, just happened to be behind a guy like Jude Haig, and he was fantastic.
The Region 11 boys' second team, McCade Roll from Skyview, Easton Stokes from Green Canyon, Parker Andrus from Mountain Crest, Zach Oxborough from Skyview, and Cooper Hall from Ridgeline.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I'm looking forward to seeing McCade Roll next year. Guys, junior. There aren't a whole lot of non-seniors that end up pretty high up on these. So usually, your first team is full of seniors, guys at the peak of their career. McCade Roll was a borderline first-team guy as a junior, and I'm excited to see what he does next year for Skyview.
Number of players on the all honorable mention list, including Liam Guthrie from Skyview, Boston Horman and Jamison Thompson from Green Canyon, Ethan Woolley from Logan, Tyler Jackman and Harrison Putnam from Ridgeline, Tyden Jones and Cash Avery from Bear River, Noah Carden from Mountain Crest, and Jackson Slaw from Westfield.
Yeah, a lot of great players. I mentioned guys I'm looking forward to watching next year. Ethan Woolley's another one, sophomore, and averaged double figures this year. So there's a good future for a lot of these teams, even though Logan's going to be leaving Region 11. But there's some guys to watch out for on all these teams. Even if you may not know their names yet, there's going to be some big players next year, as there always are.
Now to the girls, all Region 11 honors and first team, second team, individual honors. No question, easy pick for everybody. Emily Skinner, unanimous selection for the Girls Player of the Year. Heck, she's winning statewide Player of the Year and
earning national
recognition.
There's not really another choice here.
No, and her coach Ainsley Jenks as the coach of the year, though should be some consideration, as one of our voters noted, Scott Jackson and that Ridgeline coaching staff overall, because Jenks had to sit on the bench for a lot, and it was Scott Jackson who was up and down the sideline and going out on the court and coaching the girls. But that coaching staff overall recognized for what they did this year.
Yeah, it takes a coaching staff to build a program like this. Sure, you have the 5-star recruit, but you don't go undefeated by just having the one good player.
Yes.
And they won a semifinal by like 25 points without their star player. This is a good team.
Yes. Emily Skinner also recognized as the Region 11 Defensive Player of the Year. And she's somebody who averaged 3.7 steals and 1.5 blocks per game. And she was just very dynamic in affecting the game, not just on offense, but also on defense.
Yeah, high-level defender. There's a reason that she's as highly sought-after recruit as she is, because it's not just offense, it's everything. Points, rebounds, assists, defense. So there's a reason that she won a bunch of the Player of the Week awards and a bunch of all this other stuff. She was very deserving of all those recognitions.
Sixth Woman of the Year going to Abby Hobbs from Ridgeline.
And no surprise, Ridgeline getting a lot of this. When you're that good of a team, you're going to be scooping up a lot of these superlatives.
Yes, and so the all-region first team for girls, Emily Skinner headlines that with the season she had, along with a number of her teammates, Abby Munford, McKady Jenks, and Brooks Smith, all from Ridgeline on that first team, and Claire Fisher from Skyview finishing it out.
I don't know if Ridgeline was maybe a little too represented on the first team, but when you go undefeated, like, you have all the good players. But Claire Fisher, obviously very deserving, very good player, double machine, getting a lot of blocks. But yeah, just fantastic players all over the place for Ridgeline. So even when they don't have Emily Skinner, they're going to have a good team next year. There's not going to be that much of a fall off for them.
Looking at the girls' second team, honorees, Maya Hines from Green Canyon, Maya Eskelson from Skyview, Bella Carroll from Mountain Crest, Aubrey Fry from Bear River, and Canyon Brits from Westfield.
Yeah, some fantastic players, and so many overlooked. The players that got overlooked because of Emily Skinner, like Maya Hines balling out for Green Canyon a lot of the year. Aubrey Fry, she was doing really well for Bear River. Obviously, Bear River struggled a little bit as a team. Bella Carroll, one of the up-and-comers, where she was, I think, I can't remember if she was a sophomore or junior. I can't remember if she was a freshman last year or sophomore this year. I got it mixed up in my head, but she's one of the up-and-comers for Region 11 and one to watch out for. She took a big step forward this year. And then Maya Eskelson, I think, a really underrated player, where Skyview was a good team, not just because they had Claire Fisher, but because they had players like Maya Eskelson as support players as well. So just a lot of these underrated players, because you have a team like Ridgeline in the region, you get overlooked, but really need to be recognized, a lot of these players.
And then looking at the Region 11 girls honorable mention, Talisa Nelson from Green Canyon, Leighton Pratt from Mountain Crest, Lily Smith from Mountain Crest, and Reagan Brown from Ridgeline, and Jalen Coombs from Westfield.
Yeah, just more of my favorite underrated players. Probably two of my favorites among that group were Talisa Nelson and Lily Smith. Just two of my favorite players to see. Just because, again, they're underrated. They're great guards, and especially since they both took Lily Smith especially took a step forward this year, I think. So great to see them recognized.
So that's our all Region 11 honors and recognitions. We'll have that available to view on Cache Valley Daily before too long. But appreciate those who participated this year, the great athletes, their coaches, their support staff, their trainers, their parents, the family, the administration. It takes a lot to make these games happen. And we really appreciate the athletic directors around Region 11 who were courteous and accommodating for us to come in and broadcast these games. And again, appreciate the staff that we had to go out and call these games as well, and put these all region teams together for basketball. It's going to be a very different dynamic next year. Logan's going to a different region, a different classification. Region 11 is going to be different because you got Logan dips out, but 3 schools out of Tooele come in. So, and you get some of these dynamic players that have been around for a while graduating. And interesting to see what next year will bring for Region 11 basketball.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited to see Logan because I know a few of the up and comers. There's guys to watch out for. Ethan Woolley, Saden Enby, another player to watch out for Logan. I don't necessarily know the names as well for some of the other teams, but I know they're going to be great players. Because coming into this year, I was like, who are going to be the stars? Because we had a fantastic group of seniors last year that left, but we had just as good a group, I think, this year. Maybe not to the same, because last year was 1, 2, 3. They're all right next to each other, but still a fantastic year. And that's just the way it is in high school. You may not know their names yet, but you'll learn them pretty soon. You
will, yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for us here on the Full Court Press. We got Utah Jazz pregame coming up here next, here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. And tomorrow, Utah State taking on Air Force, 1 o'clock pregame coverage with KVNU Game Day on our sister station, KVNU. Have a great night, everybody.
Do you have a fireplace or stove that isn't working right? Why wait until next winter to get it fixed? Get ahead of the game and get your fireplace or stove serviced now by Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They service everything from Quadra-Fire pellet stoves to heat and glow fireplaces. Get a 20% discount on your next service and labor when you mention this ad.